Link en el sitio web para entrar a WebEx. Recomendamos que use el mismo nombre y correo electrónico que usó cuando se registró para hablar, para que podamos encontrarlo fácilmente y activar su micrófono cuando sea su turno. Para hablar por teléfono, llame al 602-262-6001 y someta una solicitud para hablar. Luego, a la hora de la reunión, llame al 602-666-0783 e ingrese el número de la reunión que se encuentra en la primera página de la agenda de la reunión. Cuando sea su turno de hablar, el micrófono de su teléfono será activado. Tome nota, debe llamar a la reunión utilizando el mismo teléfono con el que se registró. Para más información sobre cómo hablar durante una reunión del Consejo Municipal o cómo asistir virtualmente o por teléfono, visite Phoenix.gov/CityClerk.
Welcome to Phoenix in About a Minute. We are here in front of Phoenix Union High School, the original buildings built back in 1912. Located at 512 East Van Buren Street, designed by Norman F. Marsh, the three original main buildings, the Domestic Arts and Science Building, the Auditorium, and the Science Hall, have a beautiful neoclassical style. From 1928 to 1954, the school was segregated and maintained a majority-minority status until the school would close in 1982 due to the declining enrollment. Now a part of the University of Arizona, it was listed in the National Register of Historical Places on July 15, 1982, and to the Phoenix Historical Property Register in December 1986, later adjusted in January 2003.
It was always my dream to be a police officer, and staying 36 years, a little bit more than 36 years, was a bonus. You know, I was able to live out that dream of being able to not just be a police officer, but to help folks. And I thought that's what I did as a police officer. I was there to help folks at times when it was probably the worst day of their lives in some cases. And as a police officer, you're that person that folks are looking to. They're looking to you for an answer, they're looking to you for help. And I enjoyed doing that. I enjoyed being a part of helping to make our society, our community better. I love teaching at the university level because it gives me an opportunity to interact with young folks who are contemplating a career in law enforcement or within the criminal justice field. It gives me the opportunity to really stay in tune with what's going on, how they're thinking, and it gives me the opportunity also to give them the benefit of my wisdom, the benefit of my experience, and to help them understand that a career in law enforcement, specifically in law enforcement, is an opportunity to help folks. And that's what, how I view law enforcement. You're there to help people. Well, in 36 and a half years, there's a lot of what I think are great stories. But, the ones that I remember the most are the ones where I remember police officers showing the compassion to their fellow man. I remember one particular Christmas Eve having to working the midnight shift, and we came upon, it was an unfortunate situation with a young family, young kids, and they had absolutely nothing. And mind you, this is at about 11 o'clock at night on Christmas Eve. Nothing is open. But the officers rallied, and we were able to, either by going to our own homes, and found a store where there were still some workers inside. We were able to make a good Christmas for those kids who wouldn't normally have had anything at all. So it's things like that that you remember. You know, obviously there's a lot of other things that go on in being a police officer, but the stories that resonate the most with me have been the ones where I remember, I witnessed police officers truly demonstrating their humanity and helping their fellow man. You know, I think the easiest way for people to show their support to law enforcement officers is something I do every day. When I see a police officer, I wave. You know, I think that really resonates with the officers. You know, they wave back, they're happy to see that. I know when I was in a police car driving around in uniform, when people waved and said hello and those types of things, that's, I think, the easiest way to make a direct impact on how our local law enforcement, how Phoenix police officers feel about the community and how they're doing their jobs. You know, the one thing I want Phoenix police officers to know, that having spent 36 years in uniform, understanding what it is that they go through, and now being in a policy-making position, what I want them to understand is that we have their backs. And I say we, I'm talking collectively. I'm talking not just my office in District 6, but I believe that the entire city council and the mayor, city management care about Phoenix police officers. They care about the job that they do. They want them to be safe. They want them to have great careers. So that's what I would want them to know. And you know, if you want to use the police saying, we've got your six, and I mean that two different ways. We got your back, and we've got District 6.
Welcome to Phoenix in about a minute. We are here in front of Phoenix Union High School, the original buildings built back in 1912. Located at 512 East Van Buren Street, designed by Norman F. Marsh, the three original main buildings, the Domestic Arts and Science Building, the Auditorium, and the Science Hall, have a beautiful neoclassical style. From 1928 to 1954, the school was segregated and maintained a majority-minority status until the school would close in 1982 due to the declining enrollment. Now a part of the University of Arizona, it was listed in the National Register of Historical Places on July 15, 1982, and to the Phoenix Historical Property Register in December 1986, later adjusted in January 2003.
Jared Rogers, good morning. City of Phoenix Parks and Recreation Department. I'm the Deputy Director of the Natural Resources Division, and this is a real honor to be involved in any way, shape, or form with what is happening today. I just wanted to take a quick moment, just if you bear with me for a sec. My family's been here since the 1870s, which seems like a long time, and I feel a real connection to the landscape and the places here. I'm a landscape architect because I love the Sonoran Desert. To have had any involvement, to be able to be here today is just amazing for me, to recognize how over time our understanding
Good afternoon. It is November 15th, 2023. We meet today as we mourn the passing of our longtime colleague, former Mayor and Councilwoman Thelda Williams. Before we begin today's meeting, we will have a brief moment of silence and reflection. Then we will have an invocation where we will honor her, and council members will have comments before we formally begin the meeting. Please join me in a moment of silence. Thank you. I will now invite Fire Captain Troy Holtorf for today's invocation.
Before I pray, I just want to lift up Thelda Williams. We are extremely thankful for her, and we just want to lift her up. Today's prayer comes out of Psalm 100. Would you pray with me? Lord, your steadfast love endures forever. All the earth shouts for joy to you. So we serve you with gladness, and we come into your presence with singing. God, we know you are Yahweh, you are Lord. It is you who made us. We are yours. We are your people. We are the sheep of your pasture. So we enter your presence now with thanksgiving and praise. Lord, thank you. We bless your name. You are good, and your steadfast love endures forever. Your faithfulness extends to all generations. So, Lord, lead us today. We need the guidance of a good shepherd. Lead this city, this council, these people. May your ever-enduring, ever-present love touch our hearts today, especially the hearts of the family of Thelda Williams. Be to them and to us a rock of refuge to which we may continually come. By faith in Jesus Christ, we believe you will be our rock. Amen.
Thank you, Captain. Please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We'll now, before starting the meeting, have some reflections on the passing and the service of our longtime council colleague, former Mayor Thelda Williams. The only thing longer than Thelda's years of service is her list of accomplishments. She's been at the forefront of so much of what our city has done over the past 4 decades, improving our transit system and expanding light rail, preparing for drought and using our water wisely, of making Sky Harbor International Airport a crown jewel of our community. On Friday, we will unveil the Thelda Williams Transit Center near Metro Center. The city manager was unsure if the fabrication shop could complete a rush order of the commemorative sign, but when the employees at the street transportation shop heard it was for Thelda Williams, they finished it within 24 hours. That is the depth of how Thelda's city family felt about her, from the city manager to the police and fire chiefs to department heads to the fabricators in our sign shop. They always had her back because she always had theirs. Thelda was an incredible supporter of our Phoenix Police Department. Her husband Mel was a police officer, her son Murray was a police officer, and her grandson Matt is a police officer today. Let me also say that beyond her many accomplishments, those of us valued her for her friendship, myself included. Thelda knew that the job of mayor wasn't an easy one, and she provided thoughtful, constructive counsel to many of us. I'm really going to miss her. I know Thelda loved her city family very much, but the family who meant the most to her are grieving today, and they are very much in our thoughts. Her daughter Cindy, her son Murray, as well as her 3 grandsons. So thank you to her family for sharing her with the city of Phoenix. Councilwoman Deborah Stark.
Thank you, Mayor. Thelda was a dear friend and a colleague. I think, she and I were fairly similar in age, so we kind of gravitated to each other, and I just really admired her. I saw her as a role model. She was a wonderful, wonderful elected official. She touched so many lives. She was so well versed in so many areas of the city. She knew about water. She knew about land use. She knew about transportation, especially transit and aviation. And she also supported our public safety. I just had so many wonderful times with her, going into her office, shutting the door, and she would tell me stories of the many years that she was in office and the wonderful things she hoped to accomplish. But what I loved about her the best was her sense of humor. So I'm going to leave you with this story. She and I used to sit next to each other. And we had just sworn in a new mayor, and that would have been Mayor Kate Gallego. And I leaned over to Thelda and I said, "Thelda, I could be her mother." And Thelda looked at me, she said, "Oh, hell, I could be her grandmother." That's our Thelda. She always had such a great sense of humor and was always willing to work with anyone and everyone to move our city ahead to be the greatest city in our country. So thank you, Mayor, for allowing me to say a few things about my friend.
Beautiful words, Councilwoman. I'll go next to Councilman Robinson.
But thank you, Mayor. I was thinking about the whole thing and remembering when I first met Thelda, and it was back in the mid to late 80s, because I was working with her son Murray, as you mentioned earlier, that both her son and her husband were police officers, and now her grandson is. But I first met her, I was working South Side with her son Murray. I was a sergeant on the 41 Frank squad, if I remember correctly. And Thelda would come out from time to time just to show her support to law enforcement and to public safety in general, and her commitment to the neighborhoods. And it didn't necessarily have to be in her particular area of responsibility, but she had a genuine concern, a genuine love for public safety and those in public safety, obviously with her spouse and her son in the middle of it all. But she, she knew how important it was. And that is something I will always remember and will always cherish, having had those opportunities to not just meet her, but to call her a friend over the years. And lastly, when I decided to run for office, she was one of the first persons I really talked to about the role of a council person, because I knew she had done it so well and she would have sage advice for me, and that she did. And she then supported my campaign and was there throughout and was there at the inauguration. So I will always have those good thoughts of her, and may God rest her soul. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. We'll go next to Councilwoman O'Brien and then Councilwoman Guardado.
Thank you so much, Mayor. There aren't enough of the right words to describe what an incredible woman Thelda Williams was. And I first got to meet her when there was a little bit of tiny problem in District 1 at the Juvenile Detention Center. And Councilman Waring, I'm sure, has fond memories of that time as well. But she was as was he, very helpful during that time. She really was dedicated to her community. She was a strong advocate and voice for not just our district, but the entire city. I am thankful for the opportunity she gave me when she asked me to be on the village planning committee many years ago. And Thelda was somebody who got things done when there was a problem. And so she will be greatly missed. She's a titan in Phoenix, and certainly has left behind shoes that I could only dream of. My condolences, my deepest condolences go out to her family. I'm so thankful to have had the time I had with her. So thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilwoman Guardado and then Councilman Waring.
Thank you, Mayor. I also had the honor of working with Phoenix Mayor Thelda Williams. She was a dear friend. There are many times where she and I didn't see eye to eye, but when we did see eye to eye, we were able to move mountains together. So I'm very saddened by this news. Thelda Williams was an exceptional leader who dedicated her life to serving the people of Phoenix. With an unparalleled commitment to her community, she served on the city council for more than 2 decades and remains the only person to have held the esteemed position of Phoenix's top official on 3 separate occasions. Her profound love for Phoenix and its future was evident in every decision she made. Thelda's legacy will continue to inspire and impact generations to come. Her compassion, vision, and tireless efforts will always be remembered as instrumental in shaping our beloved city. I remember every time I walked into her office and asked for her support or asked for her advice on any case that I had, I knew where she stands on every single issue. Every time we went up for a vote, was one of the most transparent people that I met in my early years as a council person myself. Very lucky to have been able to work with her. During her time in office, Mayor Williams consistently demonstrated a deep care for the people she served. She tirelessly championed causes close to her heart and worked diligently to improve the lives of all residents. Her contributions were immeasurable, and her absence leaves a void that will be felt by many. As we mourn this tremendous loss together, let us extend our heartfelt condolences to Thelda's family, those whom she cherished dearly. Our thoughts are with them during this difficult time, and we hope they find a solace in knowing that her memory will forever be treasured by not only her immediate family, but also by the extended city family she nurtured throughout her career. The impact Mayor Thelda Williams had on Phoenix cannot be overstated. We are grateful for her unwavering dedication and remarkable leadership. Let us honor her legacy by continuing to work towards a future that embodies the same spirit of compassion and progress that she exemplified. One of the last things that she told me as she was leaving council in one of our last conversations was, you know how I feel about the airport, so please help me take care of that airport, and let's make sure that that airport continues to thrive. So hoping to continue to help fill those shoes with the rest of my colleagues on the city council, and just want to thank her for all of her hard work, and my biggest condolences to her family. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. We'll go to Councilman Waring, followed by Councilwoman Hodge-Washington.
Felda and I got off to an inauspicious start. We had not met when I got elected to council, and Kevin mentioned he thought he met her sometime such and such. I remember exactly where I was when I met her. I was at my own swearing in, and I'd seen her from a distance, but I had not ever actually talked to her. Felt somebody coming up next to me, turned, stuck out my hand and said, "Hi, I'm Jim." She must have been somewhat taken aback. She said, "Well, I'm Felda," and from there, we were pretty good friends. So a couple weeks later, I had an issue that had irked me when I was in the state senate, and so I was trying to undo something the city had done. And Felda had been on the council since 1989, and this thing had first gone into effect. I just asked her, totally out of the blue, "Hey, do you remember this, and do you remember why it was enacted?" Oh yeah, she remembered completely. She was better than the written records, which were not even computerized back then. She was the go-to for anybody who wanted to know anything about I found that invaluable. I can't tell you how many times on some pretty big issues, she knew exactly why things were done. But I still hadn't worked with her that closely until I served as her vice mayor. And fantastic mayor. She got big issues done. One I would compare it to was something I thought about Debbie Lesko. She was just a really solid state legislator, and that's what I always thought about Felda. She took on big issues that other people maybe wouldn't have tried or would have failed if they had, and she got them done, whether I personally agreed with them or not. And she was really just a wonderful person to boot. I don't know about her. In my family, and I've told her this, we would have called her a hoot, which is a form of high praise. She was absolutely hilarious. I can't tell you how many times I had meetings with her where I would just literally come out laughing and in tears, and you wouldn't necessarily know that. But she was just a wonderful person, and honestly, I wish there were more like her in politics. She handled things with a deft touch. I honestly think there are things that passed this council just because she was the one doing the asking, and if it had been else, maybe it wouldn't have happened, because she just had that force of personality. And I just think it's a sad tremendous public servant, really over 4 different decades she touched. Proud that I get a chance to honor her.
Thank you, Councilwoman Hodge-Washington, followed by the Vice Mayor.
Unlike many others on the dais, I did not have the opportunity to serve with Felda on the actual city council, but what I did get to meet with her and connect with her, I can tell that she was truly a selfless leader. Jim, you mentioned that up until 2020 she was still serving. I can say up until 2023 she was still serving. As I undertook the bond initiative, she was there to provide guidance, support, letters letters for our campaign to ensure that it passed. It is obvious that the city of Phoenix was one of her first loves, and I hope that the city can continue to show her our love back to her in the way that we honor her memory. There's not much you can say about a person that has given so much of their life to public service. The selflessness that we saw is a testament, an example for, I hope, each and every one of us to follow. I want to just simply extend my condolences to the family as well. Thank you for allowing us, the city, to share her. And I pray that you guys find solace and peace and comfort in this time of bereavement.
Thank you. We'll go to the Vice Mayor and then Councilwoman Pastor.
Thank you, Mayor. I also did not have the opportunity to serve with Felda Williams, but have only ever heard such incredible things about her leadership. And the one time I did get to meet her, I'll echo what Councilman Waring said. She was hilarious. It was at the ribbon cutting for U.S. vets in Councilwoman O'Brien's district, and I had just recently been elected, went up to introduce myself, and she's like, "It's addicting. You're going to love it." And I remember it really stuck with me. I thought it was so cute, and just, the fact that she has served the city for decades, and that was her comment to me, and she was just very supportive, was really sweet. So wishing her family a lot of strength during this difficult time, and I hope that we can do justice in honoring her at the City of Phoenix. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Pastor.
Thank you, Mayor. Really appreciate it. I have so many stories of Zelda because Zelda actually watched me become who I am today in many different versions of Laura Pastor. And she was always very kind-hearted and stern and direct with me when she celebrated me and when she didn't like certain things that I was doing. But her and I had a great relationship, because I would come into her office and she would say, "Trouble, what's going on? Why are you in my office?" And I'm like, "I'm not trouble. I'm just coming to ask a question." And so we would chuckle, and then from there we would discuss whatever issue we were discussing. One of the things that Zelda and I worked on, and she asked me before she left, was to make sure that I would still advocate for the Humane Society and advocate for animal rights. And I have kept that and honored her in that space by doing some of the items that I had been doing, especially ban of the use of chains on dogs. She also asked me to protect and make sure that Metro Center was completed. And so with great efforts of all of us, she has been able to see that and was able to see that. And I'm just, as a councilwoman, she just dedicated her life to the city of Phoenix. And so I hope that we continue to dedicate and honor her by looking at what she left behind and her legacy, and continue advocating for the future and her constituents. So thank you. My deepest condolences to the family. She was the heart of that household, and understand the feeling and the loss that they're experiencing today. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilwoman. And we also want to welcome former Councilwoman Peggy Bilstein, who served with Councilwoman Williams, and Councilwoman Williams' daughter, Chris, served as Chief of Staff for Councilwoman Bilstein. With that, we will formally call the council meeting to order, and just know that to the Williams family, we are thinking of you. Will the clerk call the roll?
Councilwoman Guardado.
Here.
Councilwoman Hodge Washington.
Here.
Councilwoman O'Brien.
Here.
Councilwoman Pastor.
Here.
Councilman Robinson.
Here.
Councilwoman Stark. Councilman Waring. Here. Vice Mayor Ansari.
Here.
Mayor Gallego.
Here. Mario Barajas and Carmen Cota are with us to provide interpretation. Mario, would you introduce your team?
Thank you, Mayor. Hello, once again, I'm Mario Barajas, and together with my colleague Carmen Cota, we'll be serving today as Spanish interpreters for our City Council formal meeting. I'll now take a moment to introduce ourselves to our Spanish-speaking audience. Hola, buenas tardes. Bienvenidos a la reunión formal del Consejo Municipal. Yo soy Mario Barajas y junto con mi colega Carmen Cota estaremos sirviéndoles hoy como intérpretes a los de habla hispana. Deseamos pedirles de antemano, si es que van a dar un comentario público, por favor, hable despacio, con claridad y evite tener distracciones de fondo. Finalmente, pause después de cada una o dos oraciones para que podamos interpretarles de la manera más completa posible. Muchas gracias. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Will the city attorney please explain will the city clerk read the 24-hour paragraph?
The titles of the following ordinance and resolution numbers on the agenda were available to the public at least 24 hours prior to this council meeting, and therefore may be read by title or agenda item only. Ordinances number G7176 and 7190 through 7192, S50313 through 50354, and 356, and Resolutions 22167 and 22168.
Thank you. Will the city attorney explain public comment?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Members of the public may speak for up to 2 minutes to comment on agenda items. Comments must be related to the agenda item and the action being considered by the council. General comments that go beyond the scope of the agenda item must be made in the citizen comment session at the end of the agenda. The City Council and staff cannot discuss or comment on matters related to pending investigations, claims, or litigation. Additionally, any member of the public who appears before council in their capacity as a lobbyist must, as required by Phoenix City Code, disclose this fact before addressing council. The City Code requires speakers to present their comments in a respectful and courteous manner. Profane language, threats, or personal attacks on members of the public, council members, or staff are not allowed. A person who violates these rules will lose the opportunity to continue to speak.
Thank you. And a note, we may take item 88 after the omnibus motion around 3:15. Item number 1 is boards and commissions. Vice Mayor.
Motion to approve mayor and city council boards and commissions nominations.
Second.
A motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay?
Aye.
Passes unanimously. We will now swear in our new board and commissioners before we do a separate swearing in for our judges. Please raise your right hand. I state your name. Do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution and laws of the state of Arizona, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same and defend them against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and that I will faithfully and impartially discharge the duties of the office of. State your office.
Of the Environmental Quality and Sustainable Commission, Expenditure Task Force.
Aviation Advisory. According to the best of my ability. So help me God. Thank you for serving our city. Congratulations. Welcome aboard to these important roles. Thank you to our new commissioners, and we appreciate your continuing service to the City of Phoenix. Our boards are so essential. We have a swearing in of our municipal court judges who are leading us on our incredibly innovative court that works so hard to serve our community. Today we will swear in the Judge Cota, Judge Gonzalez, Judge Hernandez, and Judge Jackson, who have been longtime public servants, and we are excited to be joined by friends and family of our judges, Kevin Beckwith, Junior Cota, Kelly Enger, Robert Warnicki, Kimberly Miranda, and Lydia Valencia. Thank you all for being with us for this important occasion. Congratulations. Please raise your right hand. I state your name. Do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution and laws of the state of Arizona, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same and defend them against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and that I will faithfully and impartially discharge the duties of the office of judge according to the best of my ability. So help me God. Congratulations. Thank you for serving our city. Thank you to our municipal court judges, and we so appreciate your service. The City Council serves an advisory role on the state of Arizona on liquor licenses, and we will turn to that portion of our agenda. Vice Mayor, do we have a motion?
Motion to approve items 3 through 25, noting that items 23, 24, and 25 were originally recommended for disapproval by the Finance Department, and Finance has changed their recommendation.
Second.
We have a motion and second. Any comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Say nay. Passes unanimously. City Clerk, are we ready for ordinances, resolutions, new business, and planning and zoning?
Yes, Mayor.
Motion to approve items 26 through 88, except the following: items 52, 53, and 88. Noting that item 29 is as revised and excluding these items for virtual public comment, 46 and 88. And can the clerk confirm if there are any other items that should be excluded for in-person public comment?
Yes, Mayor, Vice Mayor, also excluding items 30, 38, 49, and 73. That's items 30, 38, 49, and 73.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any corrections? Roll call.
Guardado,
Yes.
Hodge Washington,
Yes.
O'Brien,
Yes.
Pastor,
Yes.
Robinson,
Yes.
Stark,
Yes.
Waring, Ansari,
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Passes 9-0.
Thank you. Councilman Guardado, are we ready for 88 now? Or do you want to go till 3:15?
If we can wait till 3:15.
Great. Item 30 then is next. Vice Mayor, do we have a motion?
Move to approve item 30.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Jeff Caldwell, followed by Leslie Shepard.
Mayor, Council, thank you very much. So I'm not going to speak against or for this motion, but I fully support more representation with the voting precincts. So it is a bipartisan issue with Councilman Waring and Councilwoman Ansari that we increase the voting precincts. And so I request that the City of Phoenix starts working on the groundwork that goes into expanding the precincts so that way we have more representation on the council. So with that, I greatly appreciate the opportunity to bring forward the idea of a bipartisan plan to move forward to have more representation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Should we take the final comment, or do you want to?
Well, why don't you go ahead and take the final comment?
I'm pretty much going to echo what he said. I do think it's important that we do start expanding the precincts so that we can have, I would say accountability, but I think it's just an easier way to keep track of what's going on. I'm really excited to see that it's a bipartisan effort, and I really wanted to let you all know that I really appreciated all your sentiments that you shared about the previous person. And Mayor, I was very moved by that, and I just wanted to thank you all very much for that. Thank you.
Councilman Waring.
Thank you, Mayor. So this, I guess this would be for Jeff or maybe Lori. This is simply starting the process of where the voting centers are going to be.
Councilman Waring, I'll defer that question to our city clerk, Denise Archibald.
I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
Nope, you're fine.
Mayor, members of the council, Councilman Waring, this is basically to align the precincts after we went through the redistricting process, and so it's just aligning the voting precincts with that.
Okay, so it's just putting our precincts that work along with the state, which has already been done.
Correct.
So I did want to sort of touch on something that I would argue is analogous. I've been troubled in the past by how few actual physical locations we have. So, that kind of goes along with precincts, so I think I'm on safe ground. I brought this up before. For example, in Tatum Ranch, I think they used to have a golf club there, but when that was no longer the case, people had to drive all the way down to Mesquite Library, which isn't even in District 2. Now, it kind of is right by District 2, but still, it's a hefty drive. So I've made this request in the past. I know, Denise, you have a tough job because people don't want us anymore for various reasons, schools. Welcome voting now are afraid of having an incident or something, and same with some of the private sector locations like the one I just mentioned. But anything we can do to make it more possible, people do like voting in person.
Thank you, Councilman Waring. We will definitely work on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Roll call.
Guardado,
Yes.
Hodge Washington,
Yes.
O'Brien,
Yes.
Pastor,
Yes.
Robinson,
Yes.
Stark, Waring, Ansari,
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Passes 9-0.
Thank you. Item 38 is the electronic books for the library. Do we have a motion?
Move to approve item 38.
We have a motion and a second. Jeff, followed by Leslie.
Mayor, Council, I wasn't able to go to the libraries between when the agenda was released and today. So I don't know whether or not this content is available through the electronic books or not, but I would hope that there is no sexualized content available at the library through the electronic books. I went back and forth in my head on whether or not I would request the limitation to be guided around the age according to the library card accessing the database, but it could be a child that uses the parent's library card. So if there is any sexualized content on the database, I would highly encourage that it is removed. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Leslie.
I definitely echo the part about making sure that there's no sexualized content and that a child could use their parents' ID. I know that there's books called This Book is Gay, Queer, LTBQ. The thing is, it's not about choosing or picking and choosing or being discriminating against people who choose to live life however they want. The problem is the content and how that children can get a hold of it. Right now we have a lot of really bad situations going on in the schools where ARS 133553 is absolutely being violated at a school level. So I just want to encourage you to make sure that you don't find yourself also participating, such as our governor, who has done nothing to protect children. I would just ask that you guys please try to make sure that that would not be something you're also responsible for. So thank you.
Roll call.
Guardado,
Yes.
Hodge Washington,
Yes.
O'Brien,
Yes.
Pastor,
Yes.
Robinson,
Yes.
Stark,
Yes.
Waring, Ansari,
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Passes 9-0.
Item 46 adds spending authority to the homeless service ordinance. Do we have a motion?
Move to approve item 46.
We have a motion. We have a second. The person who pulled this for public comment is not with us. Does anyone have a comment? Roll call.
Guardado,
Yes.
Hodge Washington,
Yes.
O'Brien,
Yes.
Pastor,
Yes.
Robinson,
Yes.
Stark,
Yes.
Waring, Ansari,
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Passes 9-0.
Item 49 is block watch authority. Do we have a motion?
Move to approve item 49.
Second.
Motion and a second. Jeff, followed by Leslie.
Mayor, Council, I highly support this agenda item. However, one piece of it needs teeth, and that is the no trespassing signs. When I go door knocking in my neighborhood, I have neighbors that live in front of a wash, and that wash has no trespassing signs. Well, they have homeless people living in that wash. They have contacted the police, they've contacted council, they've tried to handle the situation. However, the homeless either come back or continue to live there. And so the conditions that occur in their backyard shall not be repeated. They had to cut down trees in order to clean the area, basically. And so if we do put no trespassing signs up at the washes or in the neighborhood block watch areas, we need to enforce this. We need to have a mechanism that actually handles this situation, because just putting signs up isn't going to deter people from breaking the law. We need to have the police force behind it, and also the homeless aspect as well, where people can get the mental help or drug addiction help that they need. So again, I do highly support this initiative, but again, the no trespassing signage does need to have more teeth. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go to Leslie and then Councilman Waring.
I think Mr. Waring actually mentioned this on other occasions as well, where that there are things in place, but there aren't things happening to actually enforce it. And so like he was saying with the no trespassing, that it doesn't have teeth would be a good idea. Obviously, this is a very exhausted problem that we have in our city, that unfortunately we have so many people that are homeless. And so it's, I don't know, it's such a mixed emotion, because, I mean, where are they going to go? So I just say let's get some teeth to this and find some solutions. I still feel like we need to have porta pots around here for people who are homeless.
Councilman Waring.
Thank you, Mayor. This is something that I've probably harped on. Bodies have been found in the washes and so forth. Disaster situation. I don't know which wash Mr. Caldwell was talking about, but there's one that kind of sounds exactly like it. Public Safety Committee going to be advancing something. We're actually going to be blocking off the washes. Lori, doing more. They're right. The signs aren't going to work, and probably never were. But we are trying to go ahead and.
That's accurate, Mayor, Councilman Waring, members of the council. Part of this effort is to actually gate the culverts in the washes so that individuals cannot camp or otherwise stay in those areas. It will prevent access to those areas.
Unfortunately, the first gate, Mayor, out of the box, they cut through it. So we're getting more reinforced gates, I think, going forward. There are a lot of access points to these washes, so this is not expenditure, but again, I don't know if it's the same one that Caldwell was talking about, but definitely are having issues in their own homes because of this situation. And we also get complaints about the maintenance of the washes, so we send a wash and they find a dead body, and frankly, that's a horrible tragedy. And it's also like our staffers shouldn't have to see that either. But we have a lot of washes, and so it's going to take some time, starting in the areas where my office has received a lot of complaints. webs as well. And
Thank you. Any additional comments? And we have some councilwomen who have been great leaders on the gated alley program, so thank you. This will add additional authority to that. The gated washes program, just want to emphasize we got to make sure that they don't get so much debris that they flood, because we have multiple challenges we got to deal with as a city. And a big thank you to the voters who approved this block watch funding at the ballot. When you vote, it does have a real impact on the city of Phoenix. Roll call.
Guardado,
Yes.
Hodge Washington,
Yes.
O'Brien,
Yes.
Pastor. I apologize, Councilwoman. We didn't hear you.
Yes, yes,
Thank you.
yes.
Thank you. Robinson? Robinson?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Stark?
Yes.
Waring? Ansari?
Yes.
Gallego?
Yes.
Passes 9-0.
Thank you. Do we have a motion to suspend the rules and take item 88 out of order?
Yes, Mayor, I motion to suspend the rules to take item 88 out of order.
Will be a voice
Second.
vote. Thank you to Councilman Stark for the second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? All right, motion passes. We will next move to item 88, which is a public hearing related to the southeast corner of 75th Avenue and Camelback Road. We will have a brief staff report, then we'll open a public hearing. Each side will have 5 minutes. Anyone who speaks during the 5 minutes that will be their time, and then anyone additional who is signed up will have 2 minutes, and then we'll close the public hearing. We'll begin with our Planning and Development Director, Josh Bednarik.
Mayor, members of the council, item 88 Z19-23-5 is a request to rezone 6.5 acres located approximately 500 feet south of the southeast corner of 75th Avenue, Camelback, from single-family residential to multi-family residential to allow a multi-family development. Staff recommends approval of the development. I'm happy to go through a series of slides outlining the recommendations on this and to answer any questions.
Does anyone like to see the slides? Are we good for the public hearing? All right. Thank you so much for having those at the ready. We will open the public hearing. We will begin with Taylor Earl on behalf of the applicant.
Before my time starts here, I think I have a presentation. I don't know if there's a clicker. For your record, my name is Taylor Earl with the law firm of Earl & Curley. We're at 3101 North Central Avenue. We are proposing today a rezoning for a multifamily project that would be a low-income housing tax credit project or a LIHTC community. It's a difficult site. It's sandwiched between commercial and single family. Also has kind of an awkward shape there with the canal. There's been challenges on the site as well that we've learned about with dumping and dirt bikes and encampments and elements of trespassing on the site. So it's a challenging site. There was a prior proposal on the site that had 120 units and all 3 stories. We were able to bring that down to 2 stories. It's kind of a before and after of the improvement that we would see on the site after the site is developed. Here's the site plan. We put in things like clubhouse, pool, ramada, so that it has good amenities. We've activated the canal by bringing in a pedestrian pathway that would get to the canal with a dog run as well. We took the buildings and we rotated them so that the smaller side was towards the south to limit views, or if not, we pushed the building further away. We brought in a row of eucalyptus trees on the south side every 20 feet on average so that we could provide a nice buffer for that community to the south. We also have EV-capable parking spaces that we agreed a stipulation regarding that. We took elements from the houses to the south and we incorporated them into the architectural style so that the building could feel like it belonged there in a southwestern style. It's also a very central location. You can see here that we're between Westgate and Desert Sky Mall, employment corridors, there's bus lines, and schools as well. So it's a good central location for this use. Also, if you look around in this map, you'll see a lot of traditional lot subdivisions. And so what we've been able to do is be in an area where we're providing a mix of housing types and densities, which is something that helps with sustainability and incorporating communities. As staff notes, we are in compliance with the general plan with this request, the designation. We also did quite a bit of outreach starting back in January, where we had our first neighborhood outreach meeting. Then we did design work. And then we had our second meeting, and this was with a few folks on the driveway that we initially met with. And so we had actually met with them before we had done the design. Following that meeting, we'd made some additional change to the project, and then we filed. So we had these meetings before we ever filed the application. And then we had another neighborhood meeting. As part of that, we did some door-to-door invites, talking to people. We had actually talked to some of these neighborhood members, and they had showed us they wanted us to expand this outreach map, which we did. And so we did that. We then had our neighborhood meeting, and then had another neighborhood meeting at the typical 600 feet. Then we did the sign posting, went to Village, received a 10-1 recommendation for approval, and then a unanimous approval from Planning Commission. We didn't have any opposition present at those meetings. But then we've also had continuances to this meeting so that we could do additional outreach. These are some of the changes to the project that we have we put into the design elements to try to address elements to the neighborhood. We put together a security plan, which also had a camera plan. We were able to show some neighbors this outreach plan to sort of address community security concerns. We have buildings that are on 75th and on the canal, so we have eyes on those locations, which is an important SEPTED principle. This was our outreach map that we had done. We had achieved support and non-opposition through a lot of work. Now, I was informed last night that many of the green and lime that you see here did sign a new opposition petition. I wasn't a part of those conversations or what was said. We can simply say what we know, what we were able to achieve, and we stand by the explanations that we provided to those neighbors and the indications that we were given at that time. We also got broader support in the area as well, both in District 5 and then in Phoenix, and then beyond, even beyond the map that you're seeing here. One of the neighbor kind of sentiments was a desire for single-family homes. We don't think that's realistic on the site, given that it's had single-family zoning for roughly 50 years, and don't think it's a good site for that. We don't think that's realistic. Also, it's not a good commercial parcel. It doesn't have the hard corner, so it doesn't have the visibility. It's kind of an awkward shape. It's adjacent to single family, so those buffering can be concerned. There's been a lot of calls for service on that commercial component, 64 in the last year, of which I think about 10 were traffic related. Rezoning would be required too for commercial, and there's already a C2 zoned property right across the street, which has a better shape and already has that zoning in place. There's also other major commercial centers nearby with Desert Sky and Westgate. These are just some of the tenants you have at Westgate, the green being the food, beverage, and entertainment. So we have a lot of that demand being met in nearby areas already. Also, one of the concerns too is related to traffic, and we would have more traffic with commercial.
Thank you. We'll go online to Crystal. And Crystal, you have up to 5 minutes, although you certainly do not need to use it.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for allowing me this opportunity to speak to you on behalf of our community today. My name is Crystal Sanchez, and I have lived in this neighborhood since 1986, along with my family. Many of you here today with us are very familiar with the Phoenix area and the continued growth that we see. We are all lucky to be part of this beautiful metropolitan city that is Phoenix today. You all know better than most what comes with this growth, many complicated factors and expectations. And that's why the community and I want to ask you for your ear today, not necessarily as councilman or woman of Phoenix, but to take a moment and envision yourself as a resident of your own local community. If your individual community were presented with a development plan or some type of growth that you and the surrounding area did not agree with, you would fight tooth and nail, as we are today, to preserve your community. So we're asking you today not as those council members and not as your constituents, but as fellow community members, please hear our request today and know that we are not in support of the rezoning for apartments in our community. We are in support of growth, but we are in the support of growth and development of our current existing community that we love, know, and continue to fight for. Many of our local residents would have liked nothing more than to be there in person or to be online speaking on their own behalf. But on a Wednesday at 3:30, it's quite difficult to get out of work or arrange for a children's pickup. So a lot of our families in our community, they're opposed to the rezoning. At recent, we have 57 families that have signed the petition stating they do not want the development of these apartments to be completed. Additionally, some families and individuals have placed comments online through the City of Phoenix's portal, and there were also direct conversations and encounters between myself and other families that I have here to read on their behalf today. So the first is Giselle and his family. They live on Wolf Street. Said, we spoke to the developers when they came around and told us that the apartments will have security. We wanted to know why we would need security. Why would we welcome an addition to the community that would need security? For those reasons alone, we do not want to see this. The next is from the Fior family. I am writing today to express my concern over possible rezoning of land. As a resident of this area, I have experienced the heavy traffic and countless accidents in and around this very busy and dangerous intersection. It isn't designed to handle current traffic, much less additional traffic from apartments. I do not believe it is in the best interest of our community, nor the safety of our community, to increase the number of dwellings in this proposed development. In addition, the crime that comes with the population density of apartments puts an unnecessary strain on the current resources of our first responders. I ask that you deny the rezoning of this parcel. Thank you for your time. The next is from the Hooligan family. My family and neighbors are against the new proposal for the apartments being built. There will be an increase in traffic, crowded schools, and theft. 75th Avenue and Camelback is already a very dangerous intersection here in West Phoenix. I see various car accidents every week, and I don't believe adding traffic will help that. My parents have been living here for 15 years and are very uncomfortable with the idea of low-income apartments being built a street away from their home. The next is the Flores family. They are opposed. The area already has bad traffic situation. Adding that many more people would only make it worse. Let them build the houses that the property is zoned for. I have a note from the French family. My husband was born and raised in Phoenix, and we have chosen to raise our children here as well. Our family has watched it develop over the years into the thriving city that it is. We understand that development is necessary and part of growing. However, apartments are just not right for this area of the city. To add that concentration of people would put an unnecessary burden on the current resources and infrastructure. It is an established community of single-family homes, and we implore you to keep it that way. And the very last here is long-standing residents of Phoenix, Arizona. We cherish our community and the single-family homes that make it up. We have invested time, money, and love into ensuring our community remains safe and welcoming. That is why we are deeply concerned about the proposed rezoning case. This proposal threatens to replace our beloved single-family homes with multi-level apartments. Our opposition isn't against development. Rather, it's against the type of development that doesn't align with the character and needs of our community. We would gladly welcome you. Excuse me?
If you could, everyone had 5 minutes, so if you could conclude your comment.
Yes, ma'am. That is my comment, ma'am.
Perfect. Very important. Thank you for taking the time to be part of our meeting. It makes us better decisions. All right. Next, we will go to Ann Deboard, followed by Brent.
Mayor, they're members of the development team and are really as needed.
I'm sorry?
Those are members of the development team and they're really as needed speakers.
Oh, they're as needed speakers. Okay. And then Andrew Hunt as well. Okay, great. So I guess does anyone, so that we have had people on traffic questions or something?
On the Andrew Hunt would like to speak, but the other two are consultants.
Okay, great. Then Andrew Hunt, you are next.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council members. I represent DevCo Residential. We have a 30-year track record of affordable housing ownership, development, and operations. Thank you so much for your consideration of this case. The City of Phoenix has been a leader in Arizona on housing and affordable housing in particular. You've put out a strong call, and the development community has heard that call. DevCo came to Phoenix, and we knew that housing was a priority for the city. We knew the city supported affordable housing before we embarked on this long zoning process. We believe we've done what you asked. We've delivered a beautiful LIHTC project that's responsive to neighbor concerns. We would ask the question, if not here, where? We have to think about not just the residents who live here already, but also the voice of the residents who will live in the proposed community. Their needs should be heavily weighed. Your Housing Phoenix plan states the city needs 99,581 affordable units to meet the current demand. You can't reach those goals without approving projects like this one. We've followed all the guidelines, the rules, the process. Help us help you achieve your affordable housing goals. I've been asked to read a statement from the property owner who's not able to attend. Phoenix City Council, my name's Sherry Ranger. I'm the owner of the subject property. I strongly encourage you to approve this project as presented. I believe DevCo is the best buyer and developer for the site. We've tried for years to find an economically viable development path for this land. That has come through multifamily. Retail and single-family users are not interested in this land at the same level as multifamily users. DevCo's the second multifamily user we've chosen to work with.
Thank you. All right, so I understand everyone else is here for questions. Does anyone have questions? Close the public hearing and turn to Councilwoman Guardado.
Thank you, Mayor. First off, I just want to take a moment to say thank you and my sincere appreciation for your commitment to bringing affordable housing options to our city, particularly in District 5. Your dedication to addressing the housing needs of our community is commendable. I see affordable housing as not just a necessity, but a fundamental right for every individual and family. I believe my consistent support and votes on this dais demonstrates my unwavering dedication to this cause. In fact, since taking office in July of 2019, my team and I have worked with neighbors, community advocates, and housing developers to approve close to 5,000 units of housing just in District 5. From large-scale single-family housing developments to affordable and mixed-income multi-housing projects. Since the passage of the city's Phoenix Housing Plan, District 5 will see the first new development of city-owned property for affordable housing in the entire city. Any housing developer that has worked with me and my office will tell you that the number one thing I ask is that neighbors in the area of a rezoning case be brought into the process. This helps ensure that new projects balance the need to protect existing neighborhoods while bringing forward more high-quality housing options for all residents. This is something I ask of all developers on all rezoning cases in District 5. Like my colleagues on the dais, I see this community outreach as an integral part of the decision-making process. It is crucial that the residents and the neighbors surrounding these areas have a voice and are actively involved in shaping their own communities. I think since I've been on the council, we've brought great projects forward, like the Haven project. I think neighbors in District 5 have developed a really great plan to getting neighbors to say yes in my backyard. And I feel really proud of that in District 5 we have created that narrative that yes, we can build in District 5. When community outreach is overlooked or unmoving, it can lead to various challenges, including opposition from neighbors and community members. This not only hinders the progress of a project, but also creates unnecessary tension and conflicts. Involving stakeholders from the early stages of planning is crucial for sustainable growth and harmonious development in our city. And I think that's very important because I think when we don't engage the community, that's where we get people saying, not in my backyard. And I think those are the people that don't feel that they have been put or have been part of this process. For this project, we worked hard to find solutions to the community opposition and challenges it faced. We organized public meetings for open dialogue. We helped in developing communication strategies to effectively convey the project's objectives. We implemented targeted outreach campaigns and went door to door to ensure neighbors had all the information they need to make the informed decision about this project. By investing in comprehensive community outreach, we hoped to create a shared vision that promoted collaboration, inclusivity, and sustainable growth within the neighborhood so that the details of this project would have a fair opportunity to be heard. It is clear from my votes on this dais, my commitment to bringing and supporting affordable housing, not only in the city, but specifically to District 5. And while I am committed to bringing more affordable housing, there is a standard that myself and everyone on this council has when it comes to community and neighborhood outreach. Unfortunately, this project did not meet that expectation, and the community has shown good cause and unity in their opposition to this project. And for that reason, I will not be supporting this project today, and I would like to make a motion to deny item 88.
Thank you. We have a motion. Do we have a second? Councilwoman Pastor.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'll second it.
All right. We have a motion and a second. Any comments?
Mayor, this is Councilwoman O'Brien.
We'll go to Councilman O'Brien and then Councilman Hunt Washington.
Thank you, ma'am. I have questions for, I believe it would be Mr. Earl. Could he come to the podium?
He is there.
Thank you, ma'am. You talked about doing additional outreach after a couple of continuances were filed. Could you talk more about that? You laid out what you did prior to bringing it to the city, and then I saw a couple of formal meetings, but then you talked about additional meetings or outreach. Can you talk about that, please?
Just to clarify the question, would you like me to talk about it from the beginning or just focus on that portion more towards closer to the council meeting?
The continuance timeframe.
Okay, sure. So following the Planning Commission, the council office organized a neighborhood meeting, which we went and presented at. And then as we approached the council meeting, we were told of opposition. And so we asked for a continuance so that we had time to go into the community and talk to individuals. And so we took that time to do that. And so we went and focused a lot of efforts on Wolf Street, which is the street just immediately to the south of the project, seeing as being those in closest proximity and most impacted. And so we went and had our outreach team go in both English and Spanish to make sure that everybody had an opportunity to ask questions and feel like they could understand it. And so we went and did that work. We're able to achieve support, folks who had indicated non-opposition, both on Wolf, and then had a few that were west of 75th. And then as we approached the next meeting, there was a desire for additional outreach, so there was ultimately a continuance, so additional outreach could be done, and so that our team went back out into the community and engaged in more outreach door to door, again, in both languages to achieve additional support. So there was quite a bit of door knocking and talking to people on the doorsteps. People had questions, and some people, of course, didn't want to talk much about it. Others wanted to talk quite a bit about it. They asked good questions, and we were able to provide, show exhibits, really walk them through the benefits of it, maybe, alternatives, and whether those were likely, what we had done to modify the project to make it more compatible with the neighborhood. And so that's effectively, we had just quite a bit of a door-to-door during that time.
What requests from the neighborhood were incorporated into this project?
So when we originally met with some individuals who had been involved in the case that was there prior, our outreach lead, Tom Bilstein, had gone and had an initial meeting. In that meeting, they had expressed the need for us to really be better than the project before us. And so one of those was height, one of those was density. So we came back and we changed the project to all, instead of being 3 stories, we brought it down to 2 stories. But we had one 3-story building, and then instead of 120 units, we brought it to 112. And in talking with those 4 individuals at the end of the meeting, they just expressed, one of them expressed, we just don't like the 3rd-story building. It just doesn't fit with the community. So we went back and revised that building too, so that we could have the whole community be at 2 stories at the 112 units. We put in a stipulation with staff to make sure that even though the zoning district allows for additional height, we put in a zoning stipulation so that it would be capped at 30 feet, which is what single-family homes are allowed, with only allowance for 33 feet on part of the facade, so we could have architectural embellishment. We put in trees on the south side to create a visual buffer. One of the, Crystal, Ms. Sanchez had actually suggested the eucalyptus tree, which we thought was a good suggestion, so we actually incorporated that as well. And so effectively, there were other things that we did that were really to be community focused and to do things that we thought would be beneficial to the community as well, including the buildings that were off 75th, building off the canal that puts eyes on the street. It's something the city likes to see as activation. We anticipated they'd like to see that, so that was something that we put in the project as well.
And does that include activating the canal area?
Yes, we know that that's been something the city's been focused on, is activation of canals, and so we agreed to a stipulation with staff that would require a sidewalk, some type of sidewalk treatment to lead folks to the canal. And then we also have, in addition to that, we have our little dog run, which is right up against the canal, and then we have that building that has been constructed so that the broad side is off the canal. Ultimately, we can bring people to the canal. SRP is going to be in control of that. What they allow us to do, we'll need to work with them on, but we've done what we can on our site to bring people to the canal to help activate it.
What percentage of the units will be LIHTC?
So 100% of the units will be LIHTC, or low-income housing tax credit. So of the 112, all 112.
Can you explain what that will mean to community members that might be struggling to find housing?
Sure. So the low-income housing tax credit comes with it financing assistance, but as part of that, there is a restriction on the rental rates that are allowed to be charged. And so you're not charging market rate, you're charging something below that, and there's a limit on that. But it also is limited to people who are making at 60% of the area median income or less. And so there's an income qualification that goes as part of this. And so this allows for people, bottom line, the sort of easy way to explain it is in a time when we have increasing rents, where folks have, we've just seen how rents have just been so high. Individuals who are working, who are trying, are going to have an opportunity to have some relief with their housing, and they're going to be able to to get into a nice, beautiful, safe unit, and they're going to be able to do so at a rent that is more affordable. Frankly, the rates that they're capped at a few years ago might have seemed normal, and now with the increase that we've seen in rents, these become a source of relief to individuals and families.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. I just had a couple of questions. On the item that you were just talking about, can you identify what those 2023 rent rates would look like?
Sure.
It's in your slide, but you didn't get to it.
Sure. Happy to get those numbers. I don't want to misquote it. So again, these are published every year. So this is 2023. So of course, by the time this is constructed, of course, that could be changed, but it gives you a sense of where we're at today. So a 1-bedroom would be 1,052, 2-bedroom would be 1,263, and a 3-bedroom would be 1,458.
Thank you. And back up, I had a couple of questions because we received an opposition petition. I just want to make sure I understand. Because what I found notable was at the initial village planning, there were no members of the public that showed up in opposition, correct?
Correct.
And also at the planning commission, there were no members of the public that showed up in opposition, right?
Correct.
Can you kind of start back from your detailing the community outreach you did starting in January?
Sure, I'd be happy to do that. So I'm happy to pull up the slide, or I'll just go off the top of my head. So again, we had been given some names of individuals who had been involved in the prior case. And so Tom Bilstein went out and met. They were nice enough to meet with us on one of the driveways. And so we didn't have a plan in place, but we just wanted to have that conversation up front. And so we did that. And then that led us to put something together, and that took a few weeks, and then we came back and showed them. And so we had that second meeting with them, and then ultimately we tweaked the plan and then filed the application. Then we went into the stage of notifying them, the public, about the filing, and then also inviting to a neighborhood meeting. And as part of that, we created an outreach map of where we would go door to door. We went and showed that to one or two of these leaders, these neighbors, and they asked us to revise it, to expand it, which we did. And then that is when Mr. Bilstein and his Spanish interpreter team member went out into the community, conducted door to door. Then we then held a neighborhood meeting, which was sort of a more limited kind of people closer to the project, and those we had reached out to, inviting them to it. And then after that meeting, we held a broader meeting that went to the 600 feet, the sort of normal thing. It does registered neighborhood associations within a mile. And then we held that meeting, and then ultimately went into the public hearings.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Guardado, and then Councilwoman Stark. Councilwoman Stark.
Thank you. Right now, I have a zoning case processing through District 3 that's a LIHTC case, and I do have residents that oppose it, and I did, of course, ask the attorney to work long and hard to try to strike compromises, but I still have people that don't like it, and I struggle, but I will tell you, we need to do affordable housing. And I told my constituents, you're going to be mad at me, but I'm going to probably support the case when it comes. Try to strike compromises. Because here's what's happening. The legislature is trying to take away our zoning authority where they'll have no opportunities to have discussions with the developer. And it sounds like you did have discussions. And I know your residents didn't necessarily like everything. That's what's happening in my case too, but we've got to start providing affordable housing. We have a crisis. We talked about homelessness today, and we've really got to do something. I appreciate your struggle, but I feel that we've got to start somewhere. We need to start supporting these projects. They're tough. People are threatened. They say low-income people, or it's an apartment and crime will come. I live in a complex that's 12 units to the acre. It's a patio home development, and right across the street is a big apartment complex. And I feel pretty safe, relatively in a big city, I feel pretty safe. And it really hasn't hurt our property values. So I know there's a lot of misgivings about these types of projects, but we've got to start looking at these and supporting them. And I'm looking at former Councilwoman Peggy Bostein, and I bet you know the area I'm talking about in West Sunny Slope. It's a struggle there, but we have to do it. And so I appreciate what you're saying. I'm just having a hard time here because I think it looks like a good project. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilwoman Guardado.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, no, I agree with everything that you're saying, Councilwoman Stark. I think that's part of the reason why my team definitely has led and my office has led when it comes to affordable housing with the Haven project, and we have a couple more affordable housing projects that we have going on in District 5. Part of our challenge in Maryville, part of our challenge in our area, if you really think about it, where are these people gonna eat? It's a little deceiving to say that people are gonna go to Glendale and spend our tax dollars out in Glendale and leave their tax dollars in Glendale. I think that it's important, part of the biggest reason I'm opposing this project is where are they gonna eat? Where are the kids gonna go to school? We are overpopulated in Maryville. If we remember from redistricting, I had to give up a lot of my area because, my area is overpopulated. Within that area, in the area of Maryville, we don't have a Starbucks. In that immediate area, if you want to go in and have breakfast with your family on a Sunday morning, you got to wait almost 2 hours in order to go to breakfast. So yes, a lot of our tax dollars are being spent in Avondale, are being spent in Glendale, are being spent in Tolleson because we don't have enough restaurants, quality restaurants. Sure, we have a McDonald's, we have a Burger King, we have all those fast food restaurants that are not good for our families. But we don't have good quality food in that area. And I know that firsthand because I live 15 minutes away from this, from where this parcel is being talked about. So just to give a little bit of the numbers as well, my office has shared neighbors' petitions and letters of opposition to this project with the planning department, who sent them out to each council office and mayor. Of the 28 homes adjacent to this project, the developer collected 11 signatures in support. When neighbors went out, they collected 19 signatures in opposition. Of these 19 signatures, 10 of them were from the neighbors who were revoking their previous signatures of support. I cannot in good conscience approve a development that is supported by only one resident who lives adjacent to this project site. I think I consider myself a very active council member, just like the rest of my colleagues on the dais here, going door to door, talking to neighbors. In the first meeting that we had with neighbors, we had 80 people show up. 80 people that came out and said, we don't support this project. And it wasn't because they feel privileged and they don't want apartments, that they don't want people living in their backyards and that apartments are dangerous. That is not what people are saying. People are saying we are the forgotten village and we don't have quality restaurants in this neighborhood, and what are we gonna continue to do to making sure that we bring those type of resources into our district. I'm very thankful to Chris Mackey and to our city manager, where we have hired 2 economic developers to continue to look at parcels in District 5 where we will bring in quality food. But one of you guys can go try and eat somewhere on a Sunday morning with your family, you'll be waiting for 2 hours. And I think for this community is not about not in our backyard, because they are, if you heard them correctly, as they were giving comments, they all kept saying, we welcome development. We're not saying no to development. But what they are also saying is that we don't have that good quality food. A lot of people have said, that Starbucks on 75th Avenue in McDowell, it'll take you an hour before you can get a coffee. It's one of the best, it's one of the most prosperous Starbucks in Arizona. And you know why? Because it's the only one. So as much as I support affordable housing, I'm more than happy to speak with a developer and look at another parcel in District 5. I will continue to be the council person that will do these projects in District 5. We will continue to do them just as the rest of my colleagues are doing them as well. I'm committed to that, but on this project, I just cannot support it, and I'll be voting against it. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Roll call, and a yes vote on this motion would be in support of the neighbor position. A no vote would be in support of the applicant. Roll call. Right? What, Denise, why don't you?
Mayor, members of the council, a yes vote would be to deny the application. A no vote would be to not deny it.
If you vote yes, it doesn't pass. That's what I'm understanding,
Yes
right?
is
Correct.
So a yes, if yes would be a denial.
Correct.
It does not mean it passes, so if the noes were to be in the majority, someone could make a second motion to pass it,
Correct, Mayor.
or nothing at all.
Or nothing at all. Guardado,
Yes. I want to explain my vote.
Hodge Washington.
Thank you. I want to explain it.
Please.
I'm going to vote no, simply because, well, for a couple of reasons. One, I believe that the rental rates that we will see from this project, if it is approved, is what exactly we are hearing that the community wants as a whole. I understand Councilman Guardado's concern about ensuring there is sufficient commercial in her district, and I don't want to undermine your concerns. I want to make sure I'm clear about that. My concern largely stems from the community, from the lack of the public to show up at the village planning committee meetings as are set up and at the commission. And the petition that we received at the last minute is more so, it specifically says if you support this, there's no action needed. So it kind of, in my opinion, sought to minimize those that might be in support of the project. I just want to make sure I'm clear as to why I am going to vote no on this project. Thank you. On your motion, sorry.
O'Brien.
Mayor, I'd like to explain my vote.
Please do.
Well, I understand the concerns of the neighborhood. I am not one to shy away from doing the right thing, and this 112-unit affordable housing complex will bring much needed affordable housing to the city of Phoenix. It won't solve our crisis where we're more than 150,000 housing units short of where we need to be for our growth pace, but with the outrageous rising costs of rent, we can't afford to turn down communities like this and that want to bring affordability to our communities. And I didn't turn it down when it came to my community. When I served on my village, I supported an apartment complex that was incredibly unpopular right next to my neighborhood. As a council member, I've also supported cases that have been wildly unpopular with the local neighborhoods. To put it mildly, we're in a crisis. With the legislature breathing down our necks, threatening preemption on our zoning authority, we must be supporting more of these cases all throughout the city. And while I'm not the council member that represents this district or this neighborhood, we have to show the legislature that we support affordable housing. And for me, this is an easy vote for what's right. So I will be voting no.
Pastor.
I will explain my vote. I'm going to do the right thing by supporting the council member of this district. And what I mean by that is it has been demonstrated that she has done the work and has worked with her neighborhoods and her neighbors for that area. I understand that we need affordability, but I also didn't hear from the developer, and the developer chose not to meet with me and to discuss their project. The other piece is I have a question, and I was trying to get recognized to ask the question. So can I ask a question? It's to Josh.
Mayor and council, we are in the middle of a vote, so I would recommend that we
Okay.
go through the
I
vote.
just didn't
and
know
then you
because I
can
didn't
have
get
a chance to.
recognized. So,
So Councilwoman,
So
if
thank
the
you.
motion is not successful, I will go to you first.
okay. So I am supporting the councilwoman of the district, and I believe it's a yes.
Thank you. Robinson?
Mayor, if I could, I'd like to explain my vote as well.
Please do.
Okay, I had the opportunity to speak to the developer, and upon doing that a couple different times, I reached out to Councilwoman Guardado because I wanted to get a feel for where she stood and what all was going on with this particular parcel. And I understand it. And as I listened to not just this discussion today, but when I spoke to Betty the other day and to the developer the other day, I wanted to come up with an informed decision, an informed, practical decision. And what I mean by that is during my campaign, I was posed with a question from somebody. And the question was, what are you going to do when a developer has a plan in a council district other than your own, and they do everything they're supposed to do? They talk to everyone, they go through all the committees, they do everything they're supposed to do, but the council person may be against it for whatever reason. But in your heart of hearts, it's the right thing, which I believe this is. And I told him then, and I believe it now, that I would not support that particular council person's position, not for any personal reasons, but because in my mind, in my heart of hearts, it's the right thing to do. So for that reason, for all the reasons that have been stated as well, my vote is a no.
Stark?
If I can explain my vote, I will be voting no as well. We are in a crisis, and I know it's tough, and I know you worked very hard, Councilwoman. I know I'm working mine very hard, but I know I'm going to have opposition. But we have to make sure we're building affordable housing projects. We're in a crisis. It's a citywide crisis. No.
Waring? I'm sorry.
Mayor, can I explain my vote?
Please do.
I am too a staunch supporter of building more housing urgently. I think it's absolutely imperative. I have said yes to every housing project in my district and will continue to do so. I am voting yes because at least for myself personally, I have had a policy on the council where I have tried and always have supported that council member's decision, just knowing that especially with these tough development cases, I'm not the one who spent time working on it and am unfamiliar, just the same way that when a development project has been in my district, my team and I have spent countless hours. So, and I know that nobody else really has been through that. And because of that, I know Councilwoman Guardado and I trust her, especially when it comes to community outreach issues. So that is why I will be supporting her decision by voting yes. Thank you.
Gallego?
No.
Fails 3-6.
So we'll go to Councilwoman Pastor for her questions, and then I'll see if there is a motion to approve. Councilwoman Pastor.
My question was to Josh. LightTech. Is LightTech guaranteed, or do you compete for the dollars? And I don't know if it's you or the housing, Titus.
And perhaps the applicant could answer that question, unless you want to.
Mayor, Councilwoman Pastor, not being familiar with the intricacies of the LightTech application process, I would defer to our housing department or the applicant if they're able to speak to it.
So, Taylor, have you received LightTech, or do you intend to apply?
Thank you, Mayor. So on LightTech projects, you need to be through the zoning process before you can receive that approval. There are, as I understand it, there's really effectively a 4% and a 9%. The 9% is competitive, and the 4% may at one point be competitive, but there's more available than there are requests for it. So at this time, it's not a competitive process. And so we will go through that process. A sort of analogy might be going through the site planning process that, yeah, we still have to go get site plan approval, but it isn't as if there's only 100 site plans being offered and there's a scarcity, right? So again, there may be at one time a point where we reach 4% are a sort of a competitive process, but we're not at that point now. And so we have confidence that we'll be able to go through that process after zoning and achieve that 4% LIHTC, which is what we are applying for.
Okay, but Taylor, there is a possibility that you may not receive it.
Mayor, Councilwoman Pastor, I think that's theoretically possible, just like there's no guarantee that I achieve site plan approval. There are additional, there's an order of operations, and so that'll be the next approval along with site planning, along with building permits that we will achieve before we build the project.
Okay, thank you. Mayor, I have a question to Alan or Josh.
Perfect. They are both at the table.
So my question to you, because this has happened to me, is that I've had a project stating that it is a low-income affordability project and said they would be applying for these, for LIHTC and other layers of monies. And they were denied those dollars or to be able to do that. If denied and we vote for this and it gets rezoned, does the zoning stay with the property and the owner can continue with that zoning? When we're voting on a property right now with the concept or people voting of the fact that there needs to be affordability and there's the possibility that they won't receive those dollars, does the zoning stay the same or does it revert back?
Mayor, Councilwoman Pastor, the zoning, if it were approved today, would stay in place subject to the conditions outlined in the staff report.
And when you mean the conditions in the staff report, what are the conditions, or are there stipulations in there saying if they do not receive the zoning or the LIHTC or the dollars, that then it would revert back to that zoning?
Mayor, Councilwoman Pastor, my apologies for the lack of clarity. When I referred to the conditions, I'm referring to the stipulations in the staff report and the accompanying ordinance that limit the subject site to 2 stories, the number of units, many of the provisions that were outlined in the presentation.
So my follow-up question is, then it stays like that, and there is the possibility that that property wouldn't be affordability and would be market rate.
Mayor, Councilwoman Pastor, there is not a legal mechanism to have it revert back automatically. That once the zoning is adopted by council, it is in place, subject to the conditions of approval, the stipulations.
Mayor, Councilwoman Pastor, state law does not allow the city to stipulate a price point or affordability as part of a zoning action. We are specifically precluded in state law for inclusionary housing requirements, zoning set-asides, things that other states do to ensure affordability. And so we cannot condition a zoning case upon affordable housing.
But yet the argument or the vote or the argument by some of my colleagues says we don't have enough affordability, so we are voting on the zoning in order for them to have affordability by receiving LIHTC. There's no guarantee that they will receive LIHTC, and if they don't receive LIHTC, as Josh stated, it's per the ordinance or the regulations, and then it could be market rate apartments.
So, Mayor, Councilman Pastor, you are correct. The city does not control the rent or sales price of units pursuant to state law. I think what Mr. Earl was trying to outline is that unlike other years for LIHTC funding, there is, because of the lack of affordable housing, there's a significant increase in available funding, and so that's why I believe he feels fairly confident that they will get funding this LIHTC round compared to other years when there was much less funding available. And so I think that's why they are hopeful to go forward with the zoning case and receive LIHTC funding. But you are correct that we cannot limit that if they do not get LIHTC funding to only affordable housing.
Okay, because you used a great term, hopeful, because this case is not the only case going for LIHTC funding. And that's my point, because this has happened to me before with one of my zoning cases, where it was controversial within the neighborhood, and then what ended up happening, it became market rate. So that's what I'm saying. The argument of oh, we're going to vote for this because we need more affordability and we're going to get LIHTC, none of that is guaranteed, but the zoning is, and that's my point. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think it is probably worth reiterating the point that Taylor made, that at this point we are expecting all 4% projects to get approved, but we have not always one at the 9% level. All right. Do we have a motion?
Mayor?
Mayor?
Mayor, I would like to make a secondary motion that we give the developer some time. I would like to sit down with them to try to figure out, I understand how important affordable housing is. So I would like to make a motion to find a different parcel where we can make this project happen, and that we could sit down with the developer and figure out where this would make the right fit, and we could continue to do this in District 5.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Councilwoman Hodge Washington.
I just wanted some clarity on whether or not that's something we could do. I don't know if we need to get that from our...
So we'll turn to our city attorney. It is a...
So, Mayor and Council, I think what the council member is asking for is perhaps a continuance.
Mm-hmm.
So we would need a date.
So asking for a continuance to a specific date, and then so that she would have time to work with the developer.
Yes, I would like, we can look at this again at the beginning of the year. I would say the first meeting back, I don't think we want to do that then, because we have other cases that are coming up. I would say sometime at the end of January.
So we have a motion to continue to the second meeting in January.
On the 24th, Mayor?
Yes.
And Councilwoman Pastor, that's good with you? All right, Councilwoman
Yes.
O'Brien.
I have a substitute motion to approve per the Planning Commission and adopt related ordinances.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second.
Can we do that though? Because this would be the third motion. I thought we couldn't do that.
All right, Julie, help us.
Yes, so Mayor and Council, you already had, you're allowed to have one amendment to a motion is permitted. So you already had a motion and then you voted on it. So I actually think that your motion would be an additional motion, and now we're getting a substitute motion. So that would be allowed.
So it would be allowed. So I'm sorry, so just to be clear, Councilman O'Brien's motion is the one on the floor.
Correct, but Councilmember O'Brien now has made a substitute motion.
Okay. So then we would vote first on Councilwoman O'Brien's motion. If that fails, we would go to Councilwoman Guardado's motion.
Correct.
Okay. All right. So the motion on the floor is to approve the project. Any comments? Roll call.
Guardado.
Can I explain my vote?
Please do.
So I think that we've definitely had a harmonious, at least in the last couple of years, respecting what the council members want to be able to do in their districts. I think this is very dangerous, right? That we're opening up the door to making it a lot more difficult for zoning attorneys to get their projects through, because now they have to go and get approvals from every single council member. I thought we had set up a great dialogue where we all respected each other's districts in what we move forward as a council. So I think, I don't think that we're setting a good precedent with this motion, and I think it can cause a lot of controversy. I guess, we have, I don't think this is a good precedent to set, because I think it's going to bring on a lot of challenges and a lot more interesting meetings. So I'm going to be voting no.
Hodge Washington,
I will vote no.
O'Brien,
Yes.
Pastor,
No.
Robinson,
Yes.
Stark, Waring, Ansari,
No.
Gallego.
Yes.
Passes 5-4.
Next is item 52, which is related to the Enhanced Municipal Services District. We'll open the public hearing. We do not have any comments, so I will close the public hearing. Vice Mayor, do we have a motion?
Move to approve item 52.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any comments? All those in favor, roll call.
Guardado,
Yes.
Hodge Washington,
Yes.
O'Brien. I apologize. O'Brien.
Yes.
Thank you. Pastor. Pastor.
Yes.
Oh, thank you. Robinson,
Yes.
Stark,
Yes.
Waring, Ansari,
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Passes 9-0.
Item 53 is related. It is paying the invoices. Do we have a motion?
Move to approve item 53.
Second.
Roll call.
Guardado,
Yes.
Hodge Washington,
Yes.
O'Brien,
Yes.
Pastor,
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Thank you. Robinson,
Yes.
Stark,
Yes.
Waring, Ansari,
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Passes 9-0.
We next go to item 73, which is adding additional time for us on our multifamily property water efficiency checkups. Do we have a motion?
Move to approve item 73.
Second. All right, second from Councilwoman Stark. Marissa Hamilton, followed by Jeff, followed by Leslie.
Mayor, council members, I am neutral on this item, but I just wanted to take a moment and thank you for having the opportunity of actually reaching out to people that live in multifamily housing of what these water policies will do, what curtailment will do, especially while we're in this budget issue with inflation that most families are feeling. I appreciate you reaching out to get this public input. And I say that as someone that just came from the Maricopa County Board of Supervisors meeting who doesn't hold the same standards that you do in getting public input and making sure that that you actually know what the community wants and things. We don't often see eye to eye on issues, but I do want to thank you for taking for this agenda item and taking extra effort in doing this.
Thank you. Jeff is next, followed by Leslie.
Mayor, Council, reflecting upon how the council has moved forward with water issues this year, I am not certain that the feedback that the community will give will be reflected in your decisions. So I'm not as hopeful as the previous speaker. I do believe that if we didn't move forward, that it could save a little bit of money. It's not much. But, you know, I mean, we've already had feedback from people earlier this year that has stated that they don't want to curtail their water allotment and have rate hikes, but yet it still happened. This agenda item literally says that you want to see how people react to curtailing their water supply. I think it's pretty cut and dry in my opinion. So I'm struggling to support this. I know it's minuscule relating to the overall budget by the city, but again, I just think unfortunately the people aren't going to be heard. But I do greatly appreciate taking the opportunity to get the extra feedback. I do realize that we're looking at implementing different water sources. I personally don't think that they're going to be very happy to learn about the recycled water program. So I just think that we should not move forward with it. Thank you.
Leslie is our final comment.
I just want to compliment all you guys. This is the best meeting I've ever been to. I'm really encouraged. I was so impressed at all the questions that were being asked and the details, so thank you. Definitely, I am not in favor of having recycled poo water. I don't think anybody wants recycled poo water. And so for that reason, I say this is not a good thing. We've got to find a new way, and it can't be something for multifamily homes. Again, I always have a problem when I hear, whether it be food, water, whatever, it's something where it's kind of like, when it's second class and it's for people who already have challenges or financial or multifamily, I just never ever will be supportive of anything that treats anyone like a second class citizen for food or water. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Any comments? Roll call.
Guardado,
Yes.
Hodge Washington,
Yes.
O'Brien,
Yes.
Pastor,
Yes, yes.
Robinson,
Yes.
Stark,
Yes.
Waring, Ansari,
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Passes 9-0.
That concludes the agendized portion of our meeting. I'll turn to the city attorney to explain the final portion.
Thank you, Mayor. During citizen comment, members of the public may address the City Council for up to 3 minutes on issues of interest or concern to them. The citizen comment session is limited to 30 minutes. The Arizona Open Meeting Law permits the City Council to listen to the comments but prohibits council members from discussing or acting on the matters presented.
Thank you. First comment is Jeff Caldwell, followed by Ginger Brown.
So, Mayor, Council, this past election on the 7th of November that just occurred was a disaster. I got 3 or 4 mailers that had different representation from the council asking people to vote. I know that it's not the city of Phoenix, but it's an outside source of the city with personal asking. And so we only had 18.7% turnout in the city of Phoenix. That is not voter turnout. That is the majority of voters not voting for the bonds. And the last time that I stood up here and I talked about the bonds, I heard people behind me laughing and making jokes about how I warn if the city continues to issue bonds to pay for services, we are going to experience high illiquidity in the bond market. The last 30 years, I know it's a different sector, but they are correlated. The last 30-year bond issuance from the federal treasury market wound up being illiquid, and it had the highest print in the history of interest rates. People weren't buying. Citibank, their municipal bond sector, they are thinking about closing it down. So that is going to rely on more average citizens to purchase bonds on the open market. It's going to eliminate money from being available from outside of the municipal bond market, but that's going to lead to higher interest rates. That's what we're dealing with today. It's potentially going to get worse, and it's from government spending. So with that being said, I want to also state that when I went to go vote on Tuesday, I got a form in the mail that said that all locations were open until 7 p.m. So somebody sent me a text message, said that this is the closest vote center to where we live to drop off our ballot. I showed up at 4:45 and it closed at 4:30. So the information that was provided to the public in the mail ballot envelope was not accurate. And it also states in our state law that it's supposed to be open until 7 p.m. Unfortunately, I didn't check the website because I didn't think I had to. So I feel like I was misled, but I also want the council and the members of council to understand that the majority of voters did not vote for the bonds. They stayed home. So it was not good voter turnout. We can't say the voters turned out to vote for the bonds. And with that being said, thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, we have Ginger Brown, followed by Chaska Coggeshall.
Good afternoon, City Council and Mayor. My name is Ginger Brown. I work for SSP America at the airport, and I'm a cashier for SSP. I've worked there for just over 10 years now, and let you know that I'm renting my apartment since 2019 for $1,000, which was rough at the time, but I had my son live with me. Now I live by myself. They've raised my rent about 30%. I'm now paying $1,300. My rent is actually $1,500, but negotiating with my landlord, she was nice enough to give me a discount to $1,300, which thank God I get tips for as a cashier, and that's what helps pay my rent and my bills and keeps food on my table and my cats fed. $17 an hour is just really, really not enough for the economy that we live in now. It's hard, sorry. SSP received our full proposal back in April of this year, and our contract expired on May 1st, and we waited for months for SSP to come to the table with a counter offer. After SSP asked for multiple concessions on where to hold our bargaining session, they came into the table with no economic proposals. Since then, their proposals have not been anything close to what my coworkers and I are asking for. My coworkers went on strike not because we wanted to, but because we are not going to allow SSP to continue to disrespect us. I am here today to ask you guys to help put an end to the prolonged labor conflict that is costing Sky Harbor Airport and this city. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Ginger. Next up is Chaska Coggeshall, followed by John Forsyth.
Hello, Mayor and Council. My name is Chaska Coggeshall. I work for SSP America as a barista at Sky Harbor Airport. Workers have filed several unfair labor practice charges against the city's subcontractor, SSP America, alleging that the company has violated labor laws. Some of the charges allege that SSP has tried to take work away from employees without negotiating with the union. I walked into my shift one day at Dunkin' Donuts only to find that my newest coworker was a self-serve kiosk that SSP America placed outside my store for passengers to use with a sign that said Fast Track. My coworkers and I work extremely hard every day to make sure that we're serving guests quickly and to the highest of standards. So you can imagine the concern and disrespect my coworkers and I felt because of this. I do not want to potentially lose hours that I need for a self-serve kiosk. We work at Sky Harbor to make, we the workers are what makes Sky Harbor America's friendliest airport. We want to make sure that the airport is well run and successful. That's why we're here in front of you today. And I want to ask you to do what you can to put an end to this drawn-out labor dispute that's bad for the airport and business. My coworkers and I don't want to strike, but SSP has disrespected us time and time again.
Thank you. Next up is John Forsyth, followed by Jordan Greenslade. Is John here? All right, we'll take Jordan, followed by Ella McCrae.
Hi, Mayor and Council. My name is Jordan Greenslade. I'm the Senior Field Director of Worker Power. Worker Power is an economic justice organization dedicated to preserving democracy and improving the lives of working families across the country through voter engagement and strategic policy interventions. We are advocating on behalf of Sky Harbor Airport workers because their conditions are representative of the working poverty increasingly experienced by Arizonans in the hospitality industry and other service sector professions. In a recent study conducted by the Grand Canyon Institute in partnership with Worker Power Institute, over 60% of airport concession workers suffer from food insecurity, and about 40% have high or extremely high food insecurity levels. While all workers at SSP are struggling, data shows that Black workers are particularly impacted. Black workers are much more likely to be in the lowest income category for workers at the airport, with 80% of Black workers making less than $800 a week compared to 40% of white workers. We hope you agree with us that workers at city-owned facilities must be paid a living wage no matter which contractor employs them, and that companies that contract with the city must be prevented by discriminating against workers on the basis of race. I sent all the council members and mayor the study earlier so that you all are able to look at it. We really believe it's in the public interest to resolve the dispute quickly. Protracted labor disruptions could substantially impact airport passengers and undermine smooth operations at Sky Harbor Airport. As the nation's 8th busiest airport, Sky Harbor serves as a crucial source of economic activity for our region, and the airport's lease agreements between concession companies and the city provide an important revenue stream for our local government. We are extremely concerned by the potential economic and fiscal impact this dispute may have if left unresolved this year, particularly as we enter the busy holiday travel season. Moreover, for 10 weeks, Worker Power Institute has held a weekly food pantry at the airport to make sure workers employed by SSP and other low-wage employers there can get basic food items like fresh fruit and vegetables. In a disturbingly ironic move, SSP America recently advertised their employees that they would conduct a food drive where some of the employees would be asked to donate canned foods to other workers without any commitment of donations or other remedies from the company itself. Workers at the airport should not have to rely on a food drive operated by their employer to put food on their table, and they certainly should not be responsible for donating food to the coworker when they themselves are already struggling. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next up, we have Ella McCrae, followed by Leslie Shepard.
Hello, Mayor and Councilor. My name is Ella McCrae. I am a cook at SSP America. I am currently making $19.20 an hour, but it's not enough for me and my family. I lost my father last year, which was very difficult, but he was the provider for me and my mother and disabled brother. So when we lost him, I had to step up, and I didn't really get the chance to even grieve because I had to keep up going. It's been very difficult and emotional and financially. We lost our house in the past year, and And now I have to live in a transitional housing. I live from paycheck to paycheck, and I'm worried that it's not enough, going to be enough to pay the bills. It's hard to get up every day and get to work on time. And I have days where I just, oh boy, I have days that I just to break down, but I have to have faith to get back up. I have faith that we deserve better, and I have faith to stand in front of y'all today. Workers are what we make Scar Harbor runs, and I ask that we help address the labor and the disputes that is bad for our workers and the function of the airport. Thank you.
Leslie is next, followed by Michael Smith.
You know, when it comes to the public speaking portion, that's the part where sometimes I hear people come up here and it just gets me. As much as I do not want to give you a hard time, Mayor, I tell you sometimes this is the part where it's so hard not to give you a hard time. And why do I say that? Okay, when you're being replaced by a kiosk machine that doesn't pay rent, it's not cool. Who pushes this stuff? We know the World Economic Forum is a big pusher of removing the humans, depopulating the humans, replacing the humans, giving them different food, giving them different water. And unfortunately, Mayor, because you are on that and you are a key person on that, I just cannot help but give you a hard time. I mean, there's people who come in here and I don't even know if you heard them. I know you weren't in the room when several of them were speaking, but you're here now, and as usual, you don't really look up or, let anyone know that you're actually looking. You're just going through the motions of it. So though this was the best meeting I've witnessed, I was especially moved by District 5 and District 3 in the way that they handled different things. I appreciate District 5 is going to even look for a different plot to make sure that that can happen, but just in an environment where there can be more opportunities for people as far as food. But when people come here during the public speaking spot, the only thing that I can think of is how our country is being completely ripped apart by the World Economic Forum. People are so devalued, and that group of individuals is the epitome of it. Even what's going on over in Israel right now, I think about Hamas. You know who was a big promoter of Hamas and a big financial sponsor of Hamas? World Economic Forum. So, Mara, I'm thinking that you need to resign from that mag that does nothing but harm your fellow citizens. I don't know if you see us as fellow citizens sometimes, but when I hear people coming up here with the homeless situation, I'm telling you, there needs to be porta pots all around here. Until this homing situation is taken care of, the people that live not too far down the street need a place where they can go to the bathroom and not have to feel like they might get raped or even arrested for indecent exposure. So I know you're going to sit here and give me the side of your face for the rest of this time that I'm going to be speaking, but I'm just asking you to resign from your position from MAG, and I want you to consider your fellow Americans to be more important than your buddies that pay people like Hamas. Thank you.
Mike is next, followed by Kellen.
Hello, Mayor, excuse me, and Council. My name is Michael Smith. I am a utility at Humble Pie for SSP America. I am here because my employer, SSP, has refused to pay workers a living wage, which has made it difficult for me to provide for myself and my kids. I'm originally from Savannah, Georgia. I have 2 kids, 2 daughters, Miley and Kaylani, 6 years old and 2 years old, that I support. They still live in Georgia. I came to Arizona to get a fresh start after the pandemic. I wanted to be able to provide for my kids and give them a better future. Right now, I'm living in a rooming house here in Arizona. I rent a room at a place with 6 other people that I have to share a kitchen and living space with. I never had my own place. I don't like sharing that because I'm not proud of it. But should you know, that's what my coworkers and I are facing. Often, the meal that I eat is the one I get on the job, which isn't good for my health. I am working as hard as I can, and I even work a second job to make ends meet. It's frustrating because it's still not enough to get ahead. For a SSP to come into negotiations with no economic proposal after waiting for over 5 months, it's unbelievable. My coworkers went on strike, not because we wanted to, but because we are not going to allow SSP to disrespect us anymore. What gets me through are dreams of the future for me and my kids who I haven't seen in over 2 years. And the contract that we are trying to win with SSP will feel like winning the lottery. It would open a lot of doors. I could make enough to get a place of my own. My kids could visit me. I could pay off my debt. I had the chance to share my story with Councilmember Hodge Washington and Councilmember Robertson, and I appreciate you listening to my coworkers and I. Thank you.
Kellen is
Hello,
next,
Mayor.
followed by Mark Rodriguez.
Hi, Mayor and City Council, thank you. My name is Kellen Wilson. I am a lead organizer with Unite Here Local 11, and I represent the employees at Sky Harbor Airport. SSP America Workers Collective Bargaining Agreement expired on May 1st. At the first negotiation session, we presented the company with a complete proposal, as you heard from some of the employees. Since then, we have met twice with the company. SSP America, as you've heard, has failed to respond comprehensively to that proposal. Not only have they not offered another date for bargaining until December 12th. We met on November 1st. They gave us a date on December 12th. There's no urgency coming from this concessionaire to deal with this and find a contract. These workers will be going through another Thanksgiving, another Christmas in poverty. I'll say that again. The workers at Sky Harbor Airport will go through another Thanksgiving and another Christmas in poverty. We have filed several unfair labor practice charges alleging numerous violations against SSP America. We think that this is a shame at a city-owned property. The city of Phoenix owns and operates Phoenix Sky Harbor Airport, and you are the owner of this airport and they are your tenant. Please investigate expeditiously whether they are a suitable tenant for our airport. Thank you.
Thank you. Mark is next, followed by Brian McCarty.
Hello, Mayor Kate Gallego and Yasmin Ansari, Vice Mayor, and members of the Phoenix City Council. It's good to hear from you again. It's because I'm just wondering that I'm getting the thoughts and prayers for Thelma Williams' family and all that stuff for losing her life. And also, I'm just saying because I'm just an autistic man, it's because I just wanted to talk to you guys. And Mayor Gallego, I saw you at the parade on November 11th on Saturday, and Lord Pastor too. And also, Yazzie, I also like handling the District 7 and Levine and all the other people in the city. And Mayor Gallego, I know you're happy and to talk to me and all that stuff because I just wanted to say how proud of my Levine and the city that you ran over is because I'm just an autistic man just talking to you to be nice and all that stuff, and then just hanging around and all the other people at the city of Phoenix, and because I'm just the Levine person who lives in almost 15 years, is because I'm just having a great time here in Levine, and I hope you get a theater real soon because I'm waiting for a theater. And then also there's going to be more buildings like the EOS Fitness, a Raising Cane's, and a bunch of other places that that Levine has on 59th Avenue and Baseline. And also, I'm just saying because Mayor Gallego and members of the Phoenix City Council and Vice Mayor Yasmin Ansari, it's because I'm just saying because we need a theater real soon. And I promise that we need one so I could be for here in the area. And Mayor Gallego and Yasmin Ansari and members of the Phoenix City Council, including Keisha Haas Washington and Kevin Robertson and Yasmin Ansari, Deborah Stark, Betty Wandado, Laura Pastor, and Jim Waring, which I don't have a problem with him, but it's because I'm just feeling fine and I'm feeling super great and all that stuff, talking to you and all that stuff. And it's because I'm just autistic because I'm just saying because one more thing. Yasmin Ansari and Keisha Haas Washington, I sent you an early holiday card. I hope you get it like tomorrow or then today because I'm just hopefully you get your card for your pictures and all that. And then I'm just a little nervous and because I'm just saying, and Mayor Gallego and members of the Phoenix City Council, I thank you for your time. Have a wonderful day.
And Mark, happy upcoming birthday. Brian is next, followed by Michael Norton.
Good afternoon, Mayor and members of the City Council. Thank you for this opportunity to speak with you. I'd like to add prayers for former Mayor Williams and her family and friends. She was an amazing supporter and friend of the military when I served at Luke Air Force Base. Well, for the record, my name is Brian McCarty. I'm a resident of Goodyear, Arizona in the West Valley. In September, I addressed you about the growing noise problem in Goodyear from the flight training schools, mainly United Aviate Academy, flying over our neighborhood 18 hours a day, 7 days a week. This past Saturday on Veterans Day, over 80 Cirrus aircraft passed over our neighborhood, disrupting our whole weekend. This week, flights over our homes are up 60%. This problem is getting much worse. In the 13 years that I've lived at this residence, we rarely heard an aircraft overhead. But today, we have over 90 training aircraft circling overhead from 5 a.m. to 11 p.m. every day. With no warning to the citizens of Goodyear, this year, Goodyear Airport became the busiest single runway airport in the United States, just ahead of San Diego International Airport. The noise is so bad that in October, ABC 15 Arizona did a story about it on the evening news. Mayor and Council, we need your immediate help to curtail the amount of flights operating north of Interstate 10. Despite posing reasonable, legal, and practical voluntary solutions to your aviation department staff, to the flight schools, and to the mayor of Goodyear, we have been met with resistance, and any cooperation we did have with your aviation department turned into a misinformation campaign, blamed citizens for noise complaints, and shamed citizens with ad hominem attacks. I say this respectfully, but this week, your aviation department didn't have the courtesy to update us after multiple requests. This airport has been allowed to grow aggressively without noise mitigation efforts, noise studies, curfews, public education, or even pilot education. The Cirrus aircraft circle over Goodyear at low altitudes, sometimes 2 to 3 hours without leaving the traffic pattern. The aircraft disrupt home businesses, fly low over hospitals and clinics, and have nowhere to land if their engine fails. And they dump toxic leaded exhaust on us all day long. The largest flight school at this airport is a nuisance, and it's degrading our quality of life. Among the thousands of requests to reduce the noise in the Palm Valley area of Goodyear, we again ask for one simple request to end all of this, and that is to fly south of Interstate 10. Please urge your aviation department to talk with the flight schools weekly, specifically United Aviate Academy. Track all flight deviations north of Interstate 10 and include these deviations in the monthly Phoenix Noise Report. If the flight schools can stay south of Interstate 10, the noise concerns will likely go away. If not, we will be in front of you for a long time. As an aviation subject matter expert myself, I've submitted industry standard practical solutions to your aviation department for your review. Please help us before we find ourselves victims of an aircraft accident in our neighborhood. Thank you again for your time and attention to this problem.
Thank you. Michael is next. Michael Norton, followed by Jerry Carlton.
Mayor Gallego, City Council, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak. First, I want to congratulate the City of Phoenix for the successful passage of the bond proposal, general obligation bond proposal that you enjoyed just last week. I chaired the political action committee for the city of Scottsdale that pursued the approval of a bond package in 2019. I formed that function at the request of Mayor Jim Lane. I became deeply involved in the understanding of the budget, the understanding of the use of the funds, and also the backlog of capital improvement projects that the city of Scottsdale faced. And at the end of that project, I had this naive assumption that Scottsdale was different, that we had a far worse backlog of projects and we needed more bonds, but somehow we would fight our way through that. Unfortunately, the city of Scottsdale failed because inflation hit us and hit us hard. And we're not going to even complete the small dent in our delayed capital improvement project that we thought we had accomplished in 2019. The city of Phoenix faces the same problem, if not worse, as I start to understand the project requirement in front of the city of Phoenix, and I start to understand the amount of capital would be required to put a dent in the number of unbuilt park properties in the city of Phoenix. It really stuns me to say these things to you, but the approval of that bond, it just avoided a larger step backwards because of the inflationary issues that we're now facing. The city takes all the property in at the time the master plan communities are approved. The backlog of park improvement projects grows bigger. The ability to fund them worsens. Inflation hits it harder. And at this point, I think we really need to believe and understand that the method for funding parks in Maricopa County in the state of Arizona is fatally flawed. That said, there are ways to solve that problem. And now let's talk about a different issue. There is a way to solve the problem with the burrowing owls at the Rogers Ranch Park. On Friday at 10 o'clock, Michaela Castillo from AZ Family News, Channel 35, will be on the Rogers Ranch Park property, and she wants to meet with the constituents who are involved in the Rogers Ranch Park and who understand what's going on with the burrowing owls. We've invited you, and we hope that you do come and attend. And when I say you, I mean any official in Phoenix City Council or the Parks and Rec Board or anyone else who's interested in showing up and talking, because the issue is going to require a lot of open communication. How do we go about finding solutions, and where do we find a bucket of funds to provide for those solutions? Greg from Wild at Hearts will be on site at 10 o'clock. He's bringing a burrowing owl from the relocation center at Wild at Hearts. We've asked the school if the kids who watch the burrowing owl.
Jerry is next.
Madam Mayor, Vice Mayor Ansari, member of the council, thank you for allowing me to talk to you about a petition we submitted, and now we're submitting it again as a result of needing to agendacize discussions about options for funding and construction of the Rogers Ranch Park. My name is Jerry Carlton. I'm the chairman of the Phoenix Resident Committee Chair, as well as the president of Rogers Ranch 2 HOA. We petitioned the city and other government organizations to engage in agendized discussions about options to fund and construct Rogers Ranch Park. This park has gone unaddressed for well over 20 years since it was dedicated as a park by the Rogers Ranch Trust. We request the park be placed on the agenda for both Parks and Recreations Board as well as City Council. It is a city, if the city is unable to promise the fund development of Rogers Ranch Park, we also further petition the city to vacate the lot and give it back to the Rogers Ranch Unit 2 Master Plan Community. Third, Burling Owls have made the dirt lot their home. There is a legal duty by the city and its council. We petition the city to agendicize that issues. The owls will soon begin mating and collecting food for the winter. There must be a formal plan in place to assure that the city does not, once again, use construction equipment to blade the owl colony flat and to assure the burrowing owls are protected. Respectfully submit on behalf of the residents of the service that the Rogers Ranch community has requested. We want to also remind you that you again are invited for Friday's opportunity with the news media. Vice Mayor Ansari, I want to congratulate you on the wonderful things you've done in our District 7. You've given us a voice that we haven't had in the past.
Thank you. So that concludes our public comment time. We had 3 people sign up after the list was printed, and we will have them go first if they are interested when we next convene. We are adjourned.
Look for. This is a trumpet. They can just put a white sheet inside this and make it as a whiteboard. A student can keep a marker and a white cloth. We just want people to come and reuse the stuff. There's so much that teachers or anybody in the community can